Anxiety has become one of the defining emotions of modern life. Millions of people wake up already exhausted by thoughts about the future, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of losing control. The mind constantly imagines disasters that have not happened yet, and strangely enough, nearly 2,000 years ago, a Roman philosopher named Seneca described this suffering with unsettling accuracy. Living during the height of the Roman Empire, surrounded by political instability, betrayal, and uncertainty, Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And perhaps no sentence explains modern anxiety more clearly than that. Seneca was a Roman Stoic philosopher, writer, and advisor to Emperor Nero. But unlike the calm marble statues we imagine today, Seneca lived through immense personal instability. He experienced exile, political danger, illness, public humiliation, and constant uncertainty about his own survival. Yet, throughout his writings, Seneca repeatedly returned to one central idea. Human beings often destroy their peace long before reality ever touches them. Not because suffering is always real, but because the mind constantly rehearses future pain, again and again, inside imagination. Seneca believed that anxiety is often created by anticipation rather than reality itself. The mind imagines embarrassment before it happens, rejection before it arrives, failure before it exists. We suffer emotionally inside futures that may never come, and the body reacts as though these imagined catastrophes are already real. Modern life has intensified this ancient psychological pattern. Today, the mind rarely rests. Notifications, endless comparison, constant uncertainty, social pressure. We live in an environment that continuously feeds anxious thought. But Seneca warned that the greatest danger is not uncertainty itself. It is becoming psychologically enslaved by imagined outcomes. Because the anxious mind begins to treat possibility as certainty. A small fear becomes a permanent internal storm. And eventually, people stop living in reality altogether. They begin living entirely inside anticipation. Seneca understood something deeply uncomfortable about human nature. The mind believes worrying creates protection. We imagine that if we think about disaster enough, we can somehow control it. But most anxiety changes nothing. It only drains emotional energy from the present moment. The mind becomes trapped in constant preparation for pain. And because the future is unknowable, preparation never truly ends. Seneca saw this clearly. He believed many people suffer far more from imagination than from reality itself. A difficult conversation becomes unbearable before it even happens. A possible rejection becomes emotional devastation before a single word is spoken. The human mind creates suffering twice. First in imagination, and then again in reality. Sometimes the imagined suffering is even worse. But Seneca did not believe peace came from controlling the future. He believed peace came from reducing fear of it. One of his most practical teachings was surprisingly simple. Stop treating imagined futures as reality. Return your attention to what exists now. Not tomorrow, not catastrophe, not humiliation, not endless possibility. Only the present moment. Seneca encouraged people to confront fear calmly instead of endlessly rehearsing it mentally, because the mind often exaggerates suffering when it remains abstract, but reality is usually smaller than imagination. In modern life, this can become a powerful practice. When anxiety appears, pause and ask, has this actually happened? Or is the mind creating suffering in advance? That single question can interrupt the cycle of anxious thinking. Seneca believed emotional resilience begins when we stop surrendering our peace to imagined futures. Nearly 2,000 years later, human beings are still haunted by the same invisible fears: the future, rejection, uncertainty, loss. But Seneca reminds us that the mind is not always telling the truth. Sometimes anxiety is simply imagination wearing the mask of prophecy. And perhaps peace begins the moment we stop believing every fearful thought we think. This is Hearts and Scrolls. Subscribe for more timeless wisdom on love, philosophy, and human nature.